following what occurred in 2020 with COVID-related activities. Last year, we saw the evolving face of COVID, where central to a lot of what we did was around the COVID issues, as well as working on vaccine uptake. So that was just one aspect of it. But more importantly, last year, we also had some funding from the European Union, which was from 2020, and it was under a funding project called NOPREVSEC. It's something about protecting the 5 northern regions against violent extremism.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's called NORPREV, PREV, SEC. Yes. So a lot of our work also centered on violent extremism, raising awareness and getting the citizenry to appreciate and understand that they were central to our national security, and that the role of security agencies is more or less incomplete without the role of the citizenry. So we need that bi-party approach.
Shared responsibility.
Shared responsibility. Okay. We also did a lot of work on national cohesion. Again, that was with collaboration and support from the Ministry for National Security. This really was on the backdrop of the secessionist movements. And as a commission, our key responsibility is towards sustaining democracy. If we understand that national cohesion is a prerequisite for a flourishing democracy, and we understand that political stability is also important for the sustenance of our democracy, then I'm sure people can appreciate why this falls firmly within our mandate to engage the citizenry. So on national cohesion, we sought to explain to Ghanaians the values of our unity and how unity drives development. Of course,
I guess that's why you chose your theme.
Yes. Ghana,
traditional values.
We are one. No, that for last year is we are one. Ghana first.
Ghana first. Okay.
So we wanted to reinforce the issue of our national cohesion that drives our national development, that makes our democracy flourish. Of course, it's also on the backdrop of the 2020 elections. And we realize that come elections, we often have deepened polarized views.
Yes.
So you have to recalibrate the mindset of driving national unity for our own development. So that took our attention. The NOPREVSEC was targeted at the 5 northern regions as well as the border towns along our territorial terrestrial jurisdiction. So that took most of the work that we did in 2021. Issues around violent extremism actually demanded that as civic educators, the new national security strategy became one of our working tools. So we had support from the Ministry of National Security, where most of our frontline staff, regional and district directors, received some capacity building around the issue of security in our country, so that in understanding or so that in implementing the activities, we must first understand what the national security strategy is, how the citizen is plugged into it, so that we can properly engage the citizenry. And that's exactly what we did. It was very enlightening for us, and based on the knowledge that we had gathered, armed with the fact, we were able to pass on the message and engage the citizenry, get them to understand their role. But I think I did not even add that prior to that we had done a risk or threat analysis on violent extremism in Ghana, because we wanted to understand baseline, what is it even that we as a people understand as national security? Do we understand that we have a role to play? Are we able to play that role? What are the obstacles, if any, that citizens are confronted with? How do citizens relate to security agencies? Is the security agency a friend or foe? If there is any gap, how do we bridge that gap? So a lot of our platforms had personalities from national security engaging directly with stakeholders. So we held a lot of community engagements across the country. We also did a lot of engagements with the Inter-Party Dialogue Committee, which is one of the flagship programs of the Commission, where we use representatives of not only political parties, but other relevant stakeholders. We've created a platform for them. And what they do is discuss issues of politics, issues of multi-party democracy, not for the sake of discussion, but to nip in the bud any growing agitation, to also share information and understand the common purpose of our multi-party democracy. So we use those platforms to engage again these particular stakeholders. So we had traditional authorities, we had security agencies, we had political party representatives, we have media representatives, we have the clergy, we have the Imam, the Islam representatives, civil society organizations. So it's very multifaceted and allows the views and experiences to be harnessed. Good. And it even, there were particular incidents that occurred that showed that at that point in time, the work we were doing was of extreme importance. If you remember last year, we had a couple of incidents where security agencies misconducted themselves. And that really enlightened the people in understanding that our collective security is not a one-sided approach. It needs both parties. And so you need the cohesion even of citizenry and security agencies to come to work together for our security. And so it brought into sharp focus the work we were doing and actually went to reinforce that what we were doing was of extreme importance at the time. In understanding the views of the citizenry when it comes to security, which really we had a fair idea or perception of because of the risk analysis we had conducted on violent extremism. So it kind of reinforced the research work that had gone on. It gave you the first-hand approach to not only just ask questions as you do in research, but actually to get further and better understanding of why people believe what they believe, why they act the way they act, and why it's important for us to take certain steps. And of course, it also allows, sometimes when we talk of civic education, in our present times, people say, use social media, use the mass media, which is an excellent approach. But people don't understand that mindset is not one-sided. It's not you throwing information at people. It demands feedback, interrogation, deeper understanding, and deeper appreciation of the issues. And so this actually afforded us that opportunity. So what happened from that was that we're able to understand why people are maybe apathetic towards issues of security. You're able to appreciate that, do people even understand what violent extremism is? People to understand what are the drivers of violent extremism, and begin to see that your actions, my actions, actually impact on our collective security. It allowed the citizenry to understand the importance of being more vigilant. And critically, it also allowed security agencies to tell their story so that citizens begin to appreciate why they do what they do when they do it. So that was very important for us. I think it also highlighted major challenges we have that would become or may have become the festering grounds for violent extremism to take its roots in our country. The physical issues of the porosity of our borders was firmly established as key to one of the drivers of violent extremism. We also got to understand that even the way security agencies act can cause an individual to be more prone to receiving violent extremism indoctrination. We learned that through our engagements with security analysts and the national security. And therefore, the importance of security officers to constantly treat human beings or the citizenry with respect, remembering the fundamental.
Have you had occasion where you engage with the rank and file of the security agencies, with view to really changing their mindset about some of these things?
Yes, so in our Constitution Week, one of the key target groups are our security agencies. And what we do is based on the theme that we have. We use that as the main thrust of our engagement with them. So usually our Constitution Week is two-pronged. We amplify our education on the Constitution itself, and we anchor it within the theme that we choose for the year. So we use that occasion to engage the security agents to understand how critical their role is to sustaining our democracy. Now, I think some other key drivers we found or we observed was that the citizenry believe in the impact of the institution of chieftaincy and how that can enhance or diminish threats to violent extremism. They understand that chieftaincy disputes also drive insecurity. They understand that chieftaincy disputes leads to some proliferation of arms. And for them, for the institution of traditional rulers to play a critical role in this. This year we have a beautiful theme. And for me, what I say this year is that we are going back to basics. So this year our focus is
traditional values.
Sustaining our democracy, Ghanaian values in practice. So understanding that our democracy is anchored in values, whether they are democratic values peculiar to Ghana, whether they are universal values that we all subscribe to. At the end of the day, we must begin to reflect on our personal values and how that impacts on the citizens or on our democracy. We all agree that we have chosen democracy as our system of governance. Our 1992 Constitution is quite clear on that. Within that Constitution, you have a number of democratic values there. And I think all of those values are things that we must begin to live up to. Last year, there was a lot of talk about fix the country. And then there was the rebuttal of what? Fix yourself.
Fix yourself.
And I was asked, and I said, I don't understand, because I've never seen countries separate and distinct from citizenry. A country is made up of the people, the laws, our natural resources. That's what makes up a country. So if we say fix the country, it includes all of us. If you say fix yourselves, it's all of us. The bottom line is all of us appreciating that the three blessings that we aspire to enjoy in our preamble: our liberty, the equality of opportunity and prosperity. We say in our constitution that these are the values, the blessings we want to secure for ourselves. How do we want to secure those values? We say by those blessings. We say we've committed to a number of principles: freedom, justice, probity, and accountability. And we believe firmly in the rule of law. We believe in our stability. We believe in universal adult suffrage. We believe in the protection and preservation of our fundamental human rights and laws. What are all of these things to us? Sometimes we speak these big words, but we want to break it down and go back to understanding that these things that we aspire to, it is not something that is only, that should be only done by political heads, leadership at all levels. But it is your everyday living that guarantees that.
So how are you going to do that?
So how we are going to do that? We pick the number of values. Even if you look at this is something we did in 2017. And we see a growing need for us to continue this discourse.
Exactly.
All of these things, if you have them, I don't think anybody can talk about fixing our country. I don't think we need to go for foreign aid, and we play our part. So a thriving economy means we understanding that when I go to work, I must work productively. I must understand that I'm working with integrity. I must understand that there should be discipline. And when I do that and productivity is enhanced, what happens? It generates more revenue. More revenue means if we pay our taxes as we ought to, I think, Alaji, the dividend is clear for us.
Sure.
We talk about laws, patriotism. What is patriotism? It's love for country. Love for country, what does it mean? Does it only mean when you stand there and you sing the national anthem?
No.
When you play football and you are happy?
No.
And you are saying, God, that started in school, I'm so sad. That's not patriotism to me.
No.
Patriotism is love for country. And as I said, country is made up of people, of laws, of our natural resources. What do we do with that? Let's take our natural resources. If I love my country, the climate, the natural resources, the water bodies, the land, the atmosphere, all of it must mean something to me. So loving country includes how we conduct our stewardship as custodians of the natural resources that have been given to us. Then it dovetails into the vices. Why then do you do galamsey? Why then do you dispose of rubbish irresponsibly? Why then do you burn rubbish? Even noise pollution, laws. Love for country, laws. We have laws. Are we a law-abiding people? Let's take the streets of Ghana any day, any time. And at best, you would say that it is not a reflection of a law-abiding citizenry. How do we begin to be checks and balances on our own selves? And most of the time, how do we see our leaders? How do our leaders also conduct themselves to inspire us to follow and do same? It's very important. We say love for country. We want to work. We must work hard. It doesn't happen by chance. Now we're talking about our values. I've spoken of what we're talking about trustworthiness. Where do we have trust in our institutions, in the arms of government? Do we believe in the three arms of government? Do we believe that when we go to the courts, we will be afforded free justice? Do we believe that lawmakers make the laws in our interest? And do we believe that the executive executes those laws on our behalf, in our interest? I think you see a growing apathy. And we've moved beyond where patriotism means going every 4 years to vote. It means that you and I, beyond voting and having the elected govern us, we must hold them accountable. Which means we must hold ourselves accountable. Because once I went and voted, the ripple effect is somebody was elected, whether it was my candidate or not. I believed in the system of multi-party democracy to conduct elections. So the outcome of the elections, I must begin to ensure that it is an outcome that is sustaining, that ensures that our future or posterity begins to benefit from it by my actions. So what are my actions? How am I accountable to myself? Am I participating in decentralized government? Do I make it a point to find out from my assemblyman what is going on? Do I share my views? Because we say it is participatory. So we should go beyond the issue of complaining, ranting and raving, and begin to provide the solutions by our own actions. If every single Ghanaian decided that I will no longer dispose of rubbish anywhere, I'll be more responsible. I don't think we have to come up with this whole policy of making Accra the most beautiful city.
And cleaning our frontage.
These are the simple everyday things. So when we say going back to basics, it's really bringing the responsibility to the doorstep of Ghanaians in understanding that our constitution says that our rights are inseparable from our duties. So going back to look at our duties and beginning to examine our lifestyles and picking up the right choices that build our values. And we believe that once we have done that, today everybody cries about the 3 billion plus that is bandied around as what we lose in corruption.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about it. Whose fault is it? We all have a stake in that. We all have, every one of us decides to be honest, and oftentimes the corruption lens are thrown on the public sector. But we must remember, the public sector always colludes with the private sector. And so it is a two-way responsibility. We say that corruption is what? Public office for private gain. And in the same vein, you have private office for private gain. So it's a two-way street. Businesses, the arts, sports, educational facilities. When we carried out our research in 2018 on the perception of corruption, the second highest place where corruption occurred, educational institutions. I was blown away.
Wow.
I was asking myself, what? So if our educational institutions are corrupt, is there future for the youth?
Serious.
We don't have a future. So we must begin to recalibrate our minds by going back to our values, especially targeting the youth. Today, population housing census tells us almost 60% of our population is made up of young people. And we should cooperate with lawful agencies. Again, it's our duty. Are we doing that?
No.
So those are the issues. But you see, the issue about civic education, I think we have gone past, we have tried, and the Ghana Education Services, their curriculum is full. At the last review of the curriculum, we were invited to make some submissions, and our position was that civic education should be a standalone subject.
Yeah.
But NACA preferred to go with what they say the subtle approach, where civic values and all of those things are embedded in all subjects. But my personal opinion on that is that how are teachers equipped to teach on these things? Our position is that right now, where we've reached, we need to be very intentional about how we teach civic education. We need to have a proper curriculum that focuses on good citizenship. They teach citizenship and religious studies, is it? And I actually think a lot of it is taught very abstractly. So they will teach you what is the Constitution. It's a set of laws that is considered a fundamental. No, you need to be. See, when you talk about civic education in practice, you need to draw the distinctions about the reality of that Constitution to your everyday living. And I think that is what is missing now. So we must have a sustaining national conversation on this, on how we can reignite these values in us. Today, people of your age, perhaps my age, all talk about, oh, we used to do read courtesy for boys and girls. Yes, it is something that the Commission is engaging with the copyright owners of the book to do a revised edition of it. We have civic education clubs. It is a way of plugging into the gap at that level. So we have civic education club in the senior high schools, a few of the junior high schools, and even we have some civic education clubs in communities. And the idea is to change mindset and enhance people's understanding of their role in democracy. I think the situation is improving.
Oh, really?
It's improving. I mean, our budget for this year was much higher than our budget for last year. And so we'd like to thank the government of Ghana for this. Beyond the budget, the value of civic education. I think civic education is a shared responsibility. And most of the time, everything around the acts of citizens, good or bad, is put at the doorstep of NCCE. But, you know, we have a lot of institutions with core mandates. And what we do, apart from our main focus, which is on the Constitution of Ghana, as a tool for sustaining our democracy, the other institutions with their core mandates will complement their work. So, of course, you have the Environmental Protection Agency, whose core mandate is the protection of our environment. But every time you hear about the environment, you hear of EPA. Everybody will be talking of NCCE, isn't it? It's one of our thematic areas, so we engage the citizenry. But ours is to complement the main actors. So people talk about NCCE. When people don't vote correctly and you have spoiled ballots, people go to NCCE. Go and read our functions, spelled out in Article 233. There is no reference to voter education. But go and read the Act of the EC and the Constitution, Chapter 7. And it talks about voter education. Ours is to complement their work. You understand? So there are some, as people talk, even traffic offense. NCC is not educating the people. But you have road safety.
Exactly.
You have MTTD.
Exactly.
So you see, the expectations on us is huge. But we welcome a lot of collaboration because we believe that collaboration, harnessing our resources, synergizing our activities is what will bring the results. So we continue. So we have the issue of retooling. What does it take to be effective in our work? The law enjoins us to replicate our activities across the length and breadth of the country. We should be in every district, and even go beyond that to even zonal councils. It takes logistics to get there. So we must have the tools, vehicles, pickups, motorbikes, canoes. Yes, because life jackets. These are things we need. I will show you pictures of crossing to certain communities and going, using these logistics together. If we don't have it, if you give me so much money for programs, and I don't have the logistics that enable me to implement it, then I'm going nowhere. So what we need right now is retooling. And beyond that, even our human resource capacity. Our new population that just ended one, Ghana, from the last time that it was conducted in 2010, it's almost doubled. Oh, it's not, it was 18 million. Eh?
Yeah.
Yes. And now we're about 30. Yes. Pardon?
No, that.
30.8. So you see how we've grown. But our manpower resource, our manpower ceiling has remained the same. We want to increase our manpower resource. And even how we reposition civic education this time. When you look at the demographics, have a lot of the youth in Ghana, in the urban centers. You have a lot of people converging here. Urban living is different. The use of technology, when and how to engage, all of these evolving dynamics, and it also demand us to reposition. And those are some of the things we are looking at, and how we have the resources to do this.
Constitution.
Yes.
Amendment.
Yes.
Many people think some aspects should be amended.
Yes.
What is your position?
Well, our position.
We have to amend the Constitution.
Our position is one of listening to the people, and so it is what the conversations that we have that will indicate where we go. I think in 2010 there was a lot of momentum towards some constitutional reform, but we saw some hiccups, and eventually that stalled. But we have a big white elephant sitting in our room, and we need to address it. Are we going forward? And we've had pockets of engagements over the last decade. Bring the constitutional reform back firmly on the agenda, our national agenda. We are going to have a conversation this year that allows everybody to express their views. Groups across the length and breadth of this country. And we welcome collaboration in that regard. We want people to begin to say clearly, this is what we want, but beyond the want is how to achieve it. And we are hoping that in the next few months we'll begin this very important conversation. As we say,
conversation on the amendment,
on the constitutional reform. We think it's necessary. We need the support of the media in these times. In these times, for that conversation to be sustained and go far, the voices of the people must be heard or must be made through the media space. And we think media plays a significant role in these times. And so we welcome collaboration with the media, welcome media's interest and commitment to this process. We'll begin our stakeholder consultations very soon, and I'm sure that we'll be calling on the National Media Commission as an organization and some important media houses. So I'd like to expect us at your office at some point.
Okay.
But beyond engaging with you, for you to follow and cover and continue the conversation using your own media houses and platforms.